Welcome to the African Weekly Roundup, a weekly program every Sunday here on HORUFADHI Media, where I discuss the latest news and events across the African continent. I'm Sultan Mohammed, your host and producer here on HORUFADHI Media. We hope you find this program very informative. Please like, share, and for similar content, do subscribe to HORUFADHI Media. Also, do subscribe to HORUFADHI Media Group's second channel, known as HORUFADHI TV, where you are currently watching this program, and where you can find other exclusive programs, such as Behind the Scenes and Mahahir Salah, among others. And last but not least, do follow myself, Sultan Mohammed, Suleiman Hashi, Yasin Abdi, and the wider HORUFADHI Media team on our social media platforms that should appear on the screen any moment. Let's get straight into the headlines. Voters in Nigeria headed to the polls on Saturday to elect a new president and lawmakers in what is set to be a close contest amid rising frustrations over cash and fuel shortages, unprecedented insecurity, and surging inflation. President Muhammadu Buhari, who will complete his constitutionally allowed 2 terms in May, is not allowed on the ballot. Voters will also choose new senators, members for the House of Representatives, and governorship races will follow on March 11th. A total of 18 candidates are vying for the presidency, but the main contest is between Labour Party's Peter Obi, who is leading in some polls after galvanizing young voters, and veteran candidate Bola Tinubu from the ruling All Progressive Congress, or APC, and Atiku Abubakar of the main opposition People's Democratic Party, or PDP. A lack of reliable polling makes it difficult to predict the winner, but a close race is expected even though the ruling party has a major advantage as it is able to use the state apparatus to mobilize support. Now, Tinubu and Atiku have significant power bases across Nigeria, while Obi is banking on frustration over the economy and insecurity to turn voters against the 2 major parties. The top issue for many Nigerian voters is spreading insecurity, from kidnappings for ransom in the northwest to a 13-year Islamist insurgency in the northeast, separatist violence in the southeast, and decades-old ethnic tensions, mostly between herders and farmers in the north-central regions. Some 93.4 million people have registered to vote, of whom 3/4 are between the ages of 18 and 49. The challenge for the parties, however, will be getting out the vote. Many young Nigerians do not relate to the 2 major party candidates who are both political veterans. In 2019, voter turnout was 35%, and electoral commission figures showed. Now, Nigeria has a long history of election fraud. This year, however, the Independent National Election Commission, or INEC, is using a biomodel voter accreditation system, or BVAS, to identify voters through fingertips and facial recognition, hoping this will curb rigging. On the voting day, results will be pasted outside polling stations and sent through BVAS to an INEC portal in Abuja. They will be displayed on the portal in real time, and the public can view them at any moment. Now, on Saturday, voting was scheduled to start at 8:30 a.m. local time, but witnesses saw polling stations that did not open on time, and in some cases, queues of voters with no election officials in sight, and this would go on until the night to Sunday. Now, on Sunday, officials began counting for some regions where elections took place on Saturday. The Election Commission said the official results would be expected from late Sunday. By the evening, some polling stations were already counting ballots, while voting was still ongoing at other areas and are not taking place in some other parts of Nigeria. However, there has been a spike in election killings, with the most recent murder of a Nigerian senatorial candidate from one opposition party and the driver of a campaign minibus belonging to another, who were killed in a series of coordinated attacks in southeastern Enugu State ahead of an election last week. Enugu State Police has suspected members of 2 separatist groups that have been banned by Nigerian authorities targeted vehicles from 3 political parties in a simultaneous incident at separate locations late on Wednesday. Now, the success of Nigeria's vote will be closely watched in West Africa, where coups in Mali and Burkina Faso and growing Islamist militancy have taken the region's democracy back a step. Now, voters will also cast their ballot for Nigeria's 2 houses of parliament. To win the presidency, a candidate must get the most votes, but also win 25% in 2/3 of Nigeria's 36 states. If no candidate wins, a runoff will take place within 21 days. Now, the rules reflect a country almost equally split between mostly a Muslim north and a predominantly Christian south, and with 3 main ethnic groups across the regions: Yoruba in the southwest, Hausa or Fulani in the north, and Igbo in the southeast. Now, over to Tunisia, where the African Union has criticized Tunisia and urged it to avoid radicalized hate speech after President Kais Saied ordered the expulsion of undocumented migrants and said immigration was a plot aimed at changing the country's demographic makeup. Tunisia's foreign ministry said on Saturday it was surprised by the African Union statement issued late on Friday and rejected what it called baseless accusations that it had misunderstood the government's position. The African Union voiced what it said was a deep shock and concern at the form and substance of the statement issued by Tunisian authorities, and reminded Tunisia of its obligations within the 55 member states, African Union, to treat migrants with dignity. Now, Said this week ordered security forces to stop all illegal migration and expelled all undocumented migrants, prompting a campaign of arrests that have caused widespread fear among sub-Saharan Africans as well as black Tunisians. Announcing the measures, he said increased undocumented immigration from sub-Saharan Africa was a conspiracy aimed at changing Tunisia's demographic makeup and stopping it from being an Arab and Muslim country. In response to criticism from rights groups that his remarks were racist, President Said said he was not a racist and that migrants living in Tunisia legally had nothing to fear. Opposition and rights groups held protests in Tunis on Saturday against President Said's comments about migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. Now, staying on Tunisia, Tunisian police detained 2 prominent dissidents and surrounded the home of a third on Wednesday, part of an escalating crackdown on critics of President Said, who has labelled his opponents traitors and criminals. The arrests, along with others this month, have targeted some of Said's most important critics, along with other politicians, judges and media figures. Issam Chebi, head of the Republican Party, was detained near a shopping centre while he was out with his wife and his family, lawyers told the media. Police later searched his home. Shemai Issa, an activist who took part in the 2011 revolution, was detained after police surrounded her in her car, her lawyer told media outlets. Police also surrounded the house of Jawar bin Mubarak to detain him, but the constitutional law professor was not there, his sister and lawyers told the media. Now, speaking in a video published on Wednesday, President Said attacked the National Salvation Front opposition coalition in which Ben Mubarak and Issa were leaders along with Chebi's brother. Although some prominent politicians had faced court cases after Said's seizure of power, there had been no coordinated crackdown on dissidents until this month's series of arrests. Now, over to Djibouti, where the tiny Horn of African nation held parliamentary elections on Friday that have been boycotted by the main opposition parties, who have branded the polls a sham. The main opposition parties, including the Movement for Democratic Renewal and Development and the Republican Alliance for Democracy, have announced that they will not take part in this election. The opposition charges that the polls, which followed the presidential ballot in April 2021 that saw President Gela re-elected for a 5th term with 97% of the vote, will not be free and fair. Only 2 parties are contesting in the 65-member National Assembly, where veteran President Ismail Omar Gela, ruling Union for the presidential majority, is assured of victory. Now, turnout appeared to be low according to local media. Gela has ruled Djibouti with an iron fist since 1999, and the country has seen an erosion of press freedom and crackdown on dissidents and opposition politicians. Djibouti's 230,000 voters will choose MPs for 5-year terms, with the law stipulating that 25% of the 65 seats must go to women. In the last legislative ballot in 2018, the UMP, which emerged from a party that ruled Djibouti since independence from France in 1977, won 58 seats. The Union for Democracy and Justice, or UDJ, the only other party running on Friday, took 5 of the remaining 7 seats. Now, over to Somalia, where fighting continues in the northern town of Las Anod for nearly 3 weeks. Grad Ali, a senior clan chief and leader of the 33-member council in the SSC region, has said on Wednesday that at least 150 people have been killed and over 500 have been wounded. And this has also been similarly confirmed by Ahmed Mohammed Hassan, director of the main hospital in the town of Las Anod, who confirmed to international media outlets that at least 96 people that have been killed that have been brought to the main hospital. And the UN says that more than 185,000 people have been displaced by the violence. Fighting has intensified in recent days, with Somalian forces launching multiple heavy assaults on the city from various fronts to no avail, as the president of the separatist government in Hargeisa plans to take the city by any means necessary. On Saturdays, reports emerged that the SSC Khatam fighters had captured a Somalian military base in the west of the city, with the capture of weaponry including technical pickups and tanks. Now, the UN Security Council met earlier this week to discuss recent events in Las Anod, jointly condemning the violence and assaults waged by the Bihi regime. The US government has also condemned the violence, stating that those behind the violence would be held accountable. There's currently no end in sight for the violence as the Somaliland forces continue their assault on the city. And that's the top stories from the African continent this week. Please tune in next week for further headlines from across the African continent.